So, in patch 14.17, it looks like they're not nerfing Honeymancy at all. Therefore, Exterior teach you how to play Kogmaw Tristana Reroll. In this video, we'll cover the strongest items, strongest units, and strongest augments. We're gonna start off with our items, and the main unit you want to like itemize for DPS would be Kogmaw, and his best in slot is a Spirit Soldier. You need this item because he's an ability caster technically, so this item will keep making him cast over and over to do that extra damage, and Last Whisper because you need that armor break. But the best item for him hands down would be Red Buff. This item gives him a lot of damage, it gives you anti-heal, and it gives you a lot of attack speed so you can keep casting your ability over and over. His best alternative items you can build that is not a Last Whisper or Red Buff, because it's kind of mandatory to build Spirit Soldier, so you just have to build on him, would be IE, Giant Slayer, Deathblade. I would say the bow items are more better, like the Last Whisper and Red Buff, but sometimes you don't have any choice, so you have to build these items instead. And I would also say prioritize the Red Buff if you can over the Last Whisper, because you can put Last Whisper on Tristana later as well. His best Orin artifact item you could build is actually Fishing Bones. Funny enough, the reason why this item actually works really well on him is because this item allows you to randomly hit an enemy champion on the board, and it also works on his ability. Say for example, he hits a unit that's basically across the map from him, his ability can go through all the enemies in between, so the damage will go through in the middle, and it will hit the person in the back if it aims for the back target. So this item is actually really powerful on Kogmaw, and it's not troll at all. And then the usual range Orin artifact items such as Sniper's Focus and Gambler's Blade is fine on Kogmaw as well. The second best DPS unit you could put on this board would be Tristana. Since she's also a 2-cost unit, you can 3-star Tristana and Kogmaw, and most of the time you'd be playing Fairy, so her best in slot item would be having a Fairy Crown, Rage Blade, and Giant Slayer. If you don't have Last Whisper on Kogmaw, you can build Last Whisper on Tristana. Her best alternative items you can build is like Runan's Hurricane. This item is really good if you get category 5, or if you need to win streak early, this is good for that. And then just the usual damage items like IE and Deathblade is fine on her as well. Or even Spirit Soldier if you have to build that. Her best Orin artifact is Infinity Force, just pretty decent stats overall. And the usual like ranged unit item, which is Sniper's Focus. And since she's more of like a high damage burst character, Collector is really good on her as well. Most of you may be wondering, is Collector good on Kogmaw? And the answer to that is, nah, not really. The stats doesn't really show it, but if it works for you, go for it. And I would say the best tank in general would be Rumble, but Rumble is pretty contested, so the best one for this comp would be like Nunu. And Nunu is more like a bruiser unit. A lot of people have misconception that he's a tank, but he's more like a person that heals a lot and can tank longer because of that. With that in mind, best in slot would be Warmongs, because the more HP you have, the more damage he does. Bloodthirster is very good on him because he could give him HP back with his ability. And then I would say Gargoyle Stoneplate would probably be the best resistance item on him because it's pretty easy to build, and most of the time he's the last unit alive in the front. The best alternative items you can build is like Redemption and Steadfast Heart. The reason why is because it basically gives you HP, and Nunu gets more HP the more damage he does. Archangel Staff is also a really good damage item for him in general because he's an AP unit, and he usually lasts a really long time for it to stack. Generally, you can build like almost any tank item as long as it has HP or Bloodthirster and Archangel Staff. The best Orin artifacts you can build on him is like Mogomel. This is basically a Gargoyle Stoneplate if it's Yo, and Anima Visage gives you a lot of HP, and it also gives you health back, and his best highest win rate item is Enervating Locket. This item will just make Nunu have a lot of HP, therefore he'll do extra damage. Generally, there is no really bad support items, but there is some that's better than others, therefore these ones are the best one for this comp. And this comp does have hero augments, so like Sweet Tooth for example for Nunu, and Zap Attack for Blitzcrank. In the end, you still build the same way. Emblems you can pick up if you have to choose, which is Honeymancy. You can fit it in somehow at level 7 or 8. For Arcana spat, it is going to be kind of difficult because you have to change your comp a little bit, but this is actually really powerful for this comp as well. I know this slide looks kind of messy, but let me explain. For at least the early game units, you can choose between all these Honeymancies, so you play like generally like 3 Honeymancy on the board if you can. So it'll be like either Nunu, Blitzcrank, Kogmaw, Ziggs, and Veigar, because they all give the Honeymancy synergy. And then for example, if you have a tank Nunu, you should play a Bastion with level 2 Lilia or level 2 Poppy if you can. For generally this is for like level 4, and if you start with a Blitzcrank 2, you can do like either a Rumble or a Warwick 2, and then you just need like random like damage units. So it can be like either like 2 Honeymancy or even just like +1 Tristana with +1 Honeymancy. And as I showed right here, these are all grouped up as Honeymancy. This is also grouped up as a synergy as well, where Tristana is a fairy with Lilia, and she is also a blaster with Rumble. So these actually synergize really well together. Compared to these two, they don't really synergize well together. They're just there for extra traits for tank. Basically, generally saying it's just mix and match and just throw out as much level 2s as you can. For the first item slam, for damage items, I would say you can like slam the items on a Ziggs 2. It's fine because you're going to sell them later anyways and throw it on Kogmaw Tristana later. I would say Runan's Hurricane is probably like the best like first item slam because it clears out out everything on the board, and you can save a lot of HP just slamming this item, but later down the line, just throw it on Tristana later, compared to Kogmaw. Like, this item is okay on Kogmaw, but it is better on Tristana, I would say. Or you can build a Spirit Sojourn, which is also really good on Ziggs, or Red Buff, really good on Ziggs as well. Last Whisper, even if it's a Kogmaw 1, just throw the Last Whisper on him, because it's one of his BIS. But generally, I would say just focus on Red Buff if you can. This item is actually really powerful for early game and late game. Now for the tank items, you could just build either Warmongs, Bloodthirster, Gargoyles, or even Declaw. If for some reason you have 2 cloaks, Declaw is fine. And you can just generally throw this on your other level 2 tanks such as Ward, Poppy, or Lilia, so you can save HP that way, and you can just sell them later and throw it on Nunu. Generally, when you hit level 6, this is how you play the board, where you 3-star Kogmaw, 3-star Tristana, 3-star Nunu, if you can, 3-star Rumble, or even if you can as well, 3-star Blitzcrank. It's pretty simple. Everyone's seen this, you know how to do this. It's just mainly the early game is where I see people struggle, so therefore we talk about that more. And same thing with level 7 and 8 that people struggle with. So when you hit level 7, you get your Jinxes. A lot of people has a misconception that you should hold on to Jinx at level 6, but I would say don't do that, because you want extra gold to 3-star your Kogmaw first. Once you 3-star Kogmaw, then you hit level 7, then you can look for Jinxes, and on top of that, by then, you can almost finish Tristana 3, Nunu 3, and maybe Rumble 3. So if you want to continue rolling at 7, you can do that for 3-star Jinx, and maybe win the game that way, but most of the time you won't, because there is a better board than this if you want to win later in the game. Side note, before I show the late game board, I know a lot of people are going to say, why not have Hunter in the board when you hit level 6? The reason why is because Hunter is a fake synergy. What I mean by that is, in order to activate the synergy itself, you need a kill. The problem with that is Kogmaw 2 is not strong enough to get kills fast enough. Therefore, it's just better playing this board instead without the Hunter, because Blaster actually works. Therefore, when you hit level 7, then you throw in your Hunter, because when you want to hit 7, you have Kogmaw 3 that can potentially one-shot anyone by then. Kind of the main reason why I didn't say anything about having Hunter in early game, because it literally doesn't do anything. And then funny enough, when you do hit level 8, you want to play 4 Hunter. I know I said it's a fake trait, but by late game, Hunter is very powerful, because you can probably get 1 takedown really quickly. Therefore, your Hunters become online and start doing a lots of damage. But in order to play it like this, you kind of have to take away your Blitzcrank. So yes, you get rid of your Honeymancy with Kogmaw and Nunu, but Honeymancy is not really worth it in the long run, because 4 Hunter just gives way more damage potential than Honeymancy would. Unless you have spats for like Honeymancy or Hunter, and don't be deceived with Hunter spat, it's actually not worth it in the early game. So therefore, don't take it early game unless you have to, because late game, it's where it shines. Early game, it literally does nothing. There is like a better version later down the line, which is this one, I would say. If you do not have a 3-star Tristana by any reason, you can just sell her and just put the items on Jinx instead. So you can still play 4 Hunter, and you also throw in a Diana over the Lilia, because you also get Bastion with these 2. And the best thing about this is you also get Frost with Olaf and Twitch, and you can itemize Olaf as well. So you can keep your Blitzcrank for the Honeymancy, and you also get Frost as well. Because honestly, Tristana is kind of like a meh unit, but this is the case if you're not close at all to a level 3 Tristana at level 6 or 7. So you can just fast 8 and just play this instead. Because in the end, you get 4 Hunter, which is like the end goal. And then when you hit level 9, just throw in whatever legendary that looks cool. If you even get to that point, because most of the time it is really hard to hit level 9 with Kogmaw comp. And then for the best augments you can choose for this comp is 2 Healthy. This augment is very powerful because you're playing with Tristana, Rumble, Nunu, and Kogmaw. So that's 4 units that you get a lot of HP for. This has a lot of value for this comp. And since you're playing a lot of the early game units, 1 and 2 cost, Featherweights gives you more stats for them. And speaking of stats, Giant Mining is just good overall. And Support Golem is also good for stats because you get a +1 unit and you also get support item. Another thing to also note that you can also play the Carry Now, which also gives you a +1 unit, which is a golem that has damage items on it, so it gives you more damage on the board. And then to finish 3 stars off, Hero Grab Bag and Prismatic Take is always the way to go. And since you can build a lot of unique items, Item Collector is very good because you get extra stats with that. And then speaking of items, you have my bow is very good because you get extra bow and you also get a lot of attack speed on the board. Big Grab Bag is just good items overall. Speaking of good items, Marksman's Toolbox is very good because you get Oran artifact items for both Tristana and Kogmaw, Zap Attack, and Sweet Tooth is just good hero augments overall, which is basically Blitzcrank and Nunu. Here is my extra tips for how to play this comp, because I know most of you don't know how to play tempo. And what tempoing is basically where you play stronger, if not faster, or with the lobby so you can save HP. And basically saying, at stage 2-1, level 2-4. The reason why you do this is because you get better shop odds, and on top of that, you save a lot of HP because you have more units on the board doing damage. By the time you hit stage 2-3, always make 10 gold. The reason why you do this because money is power. If you have no money, you cannot do anything later in the game. But if you have more than 14 gold, pre-level to 5. What this means is you want to pay your XP bar up to around 8 XP out of 10 total. Because when you hit after carousel, you get a free level 5 shot, basically saying. But if you only have 10 gold, then at stage 2-4, you level to 5. Unless you already did it previously, don't do it. By the time you hit stage 3-2, hit level 6, and then roll down to around 30 to 20 gold for your level 2 upgrades so you can stabilize with HP. And then by then, you save up to 50 gold and just slow roll for your 3-star units. And then you just like play level 7 and 8 and just roll your gold, do whatever you can to win the game. And that is it for my Kogmaw and Tristana reroll comp guide. If you have any questions, just let me know in the comment section down below. I'll try to answer to the best of my capabilities. Until then, I'll see you guys later.